The question is that the motion be agreed to. The Honourable is voted.
Madam Deputy President, and today I rise to support my colleague in this motion that he's brought to the House. But as always, as we've come to expect from the work that the Honourable Nick Guerin presents us with, there is so much here in this motion that I think we could all speak for 45 minutes were it on the motion on the notice paper rather than done under private members' business. But I certainly will make my contribution to it. I do not support euthanasia. I definitely do not support euthanasia for children, and especially for anything, with people who have illnesses and mental disorders. That there'd even be the thought that euthanasia should be available to me, I find abhorrent. I am a very strong supporter of a good palliative care regime. But at the outset, before I do continue with my contribution, I want to go on the record. I think there's a belief out there amongst people that you have to be some sort of religious nutter to be a person who's opposed to euthanasia, and it's only those who hold particular religious beliefs that share my abhorrence of euthanasia. I firmly put it on the record, I do not practice any particular religion, and I do not have any particular strong religious beliefs, but I do hold true to these very, very strong beliefs against euthanasia. And palliative care, I think, has come a long way. When we did some years ago, debate the issue of euthanasia in the House, I took that opportunity to visit the St John Murdoch Palliative Care Unit, and that did actually help me come to the conclusion that I did, that I would not support euthanasia. But probably more closer to home in these days with regards to palliative care, I have the situation of my own 81-year-old mother who, unfortunately, through an incident that occurred and through age and other sorts of things, suffers from chronic pain through spinal stenosis and a crush fracture of L4, L5. And as anybody here who's ever had back pain problems knows, they can be excruciating, and it can be quite horrible. The course of action that gerontologists and other neurosurgeons suggested for my mother was a very strong regime of pain medication, which we put her on, but the fact was the pain medication itself wasn't really helping her, except it was dulling down the senses rather than looking at the pain. And at that point, I think that if there had been euthanasia available, she may have, on some days, made that decision. I can't put up with this pain. These drugs aren't doing me any good. I'm going to end it all. I've already reached 80. Why should I go on? And people may have had some sympathy for that, but I wasn't prepared to accept what was happening to her and thought there are other things that we can look at. And palliative care, remember, is the way to improve the quality of life of patients and their families facing life-threatening illnesses through the prevention, assessment and treatment of pain and other physical, psychosocial and spiritual problems. That's the definition of palliative care that comes from the World Health Organisation. So in my mother's case, we thought, no, this is not good. We're going to go and look for other treatments that are available. And I'm really happy to report to the House that through some new advances that have been made in medicine, and that's what's happening every day, is there are new advances. She has now had what's called a neurostimulator fitted to her spine, and has done a trial of that and has found that she's had a pain reduction of over 75%. Of what she previously had, and is now no longer taking drugs such as gabapentin and morphine and all sorts of other things that she was on for pain. And all of a sudden we have this 81-year-old who's now refound her love of life and her vibrancy, and she's out there having a great time. And I think that's a really good example of how we can look at palliative care. Because sometimes what we're doing these days is we live in this throwaway society. We've all come from, and I share the leader of the opposition, we're sort of in the same generation, most of us around the House. I'd like to think I am in the same generation as the Honourable Nick Guerin, but I know he is a little younger than me, but never mind. But we live in this society where we grew up with, if appliances or things we had around our home were broken, the dishwasher or the refrigerator or the television or something like that, we would get a technician to come in and we would fix that. And we'd had people who had television sets that were 20, 25 years old, and they were working perfectly because they had been fixed along the way. What we're being told today is, with all of these appliances that we buy, is, oh, well, look, they've only got a limited life anyway. So if they're like 4 or 5 years old and they're broken, throw them away, get another one. Now, look, that's all very well to do that with appliances and printers and computers and things like that. You can't do that with a human life. You can't just throw away the child because the child's blind, or throw away the child because it has a mental disorder and I'll get another one. I only have one child. I have my beautiful, gorgeous 16-year-old boy, and he's the only child that I will ever have. I will never, ever throw away that child because you can't replace human life. And that's what we're talking about with this notion in Belgium and places like that, that somebody could be euthanased because they have a mental disorder or they're blind. You know, I hope with all of my heart that nothing ever happens to my son that would disable him or have him suffer any sort of mental illness. But if it does, I can guarantee you that would never, ever be an option for me, for my husband, for any of my extended family to think, well, let's just euthanase him and get another one. Because you can't do that. And all of you around the chamber now, think about your children that you have. And I know the Honourable Donna Farragher has 2 beautiful children, absolutely gorgeous. The Honourable Nick Garand, 4 children. The Honourable Phil Edmund, 2 children. And you're all just thinking about those kids now. The Honourable Peter Katzenbanis, I think, has 5, and I'm not sure that he's actually stopped yet. But this is what it comes down to. Most of us have children, and this is what it comes down to. At the end of the day, we can stand here and we can sprout statistics, and we can talk about definitions, and we can talk about things that are happening. But bring it back to your own thing. What would you do? And I know that I would do everything I can to protect human life for any member of my family, whether it be my mother at one end of her life or my son at this end of his life. Palliative care certainly is the way to go. Funding for palliative care services in WA. In August last year, we announced that $19.5 million over 4 years is going to be spent in that area to strengthen palliative care services for the West Australian population. And I joined the Leader of the Opposition in the call that we do need more facilities like St John Murdoch to be able to help people who do have palliative care. I know at Joondalup Health Campus, the head of palliative care there, Dr Farid Tubba, is a very close family friend of mine and is doing some excellent work in palliative care there. And there are always advances being made to be able to help people who are, obviously they do suffer, but one woman I did speak to on the day we went to Murdoch had been suffering because she was on the wrong drug regime. And once she got to St John's Murdoch and they sorted out the drug regime, she then found she was able to. She said, "I know I'm not going to get better from what's wrong with me. I know I'm going to die." And she said, "Had it been 4 weeks ago, I would have had asked to be euthanased because the pain was so bad. I've now come here. They've sorted out my drug regime. I'm going home on the weekend. I've got a few weeks left, but I'm going to use every one of those days to spend that time with my family while I can. And when the end comes, I know I can come back here and I will be looked after, and it will be done in a way that there will be no loss of dignity for me. There will be hopefully no pain associated with that because the drug regime is right, and I will be able to say goodbye in the way that I want to do that. Euthanasia in any form is not acceptable for this society. It is not a throwaway society. We do not throw away human life. We value it, we cherish it, we do whatever we can to extend it and to help people wherever they can. I commend the Honourable Nick Guerin for again bringing this motion to the forefront.
Members, the question is the motion be agreed to.